time, climate change. And I couldn't think of a better man to come out here and get that conversation started than former Vice President of the United States, Al Gore. Please welcome Al Gore to the Social Good Summit stage.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Gosh, it's great to be here at Mashable. I participated by video last year, and I've been wanting to come and be a part of this in person. So thank you for having me. And I want to begin by expressing my thanks to all the folks who are responsible for making Mashable the great event that it is every year and making Mashable what it is. I also want to thank the UN Foundation and my great friend and former Senate colleague and executive branch colleague, Tim Wirth, heads that up, and he's here with his wife, Ren, and you'll be hearing from Tim a little bit later. And of course, I want to acknowledge Ted Turner, who makes the UN Foundation possible. All of my colleagues from the Climate Reality Project are here. Well, not all of them. A lot of them are still at headquarters working, but Maggie Fox, our president and CEO, will be talking to you in a little bit, and several other of our key people are here. And finally, thanks again to the 92nd Street Y. This institution is so important to New York City, the United States, and the world. It is really a great place to have this, and I want to thank the folks that make that possible. So, did I just rip my mic off? Could you take that? Thank you. So, I've got 10 minutes to start off here, and I'm going to talk about the climate crisis and the solutions to it, but I'm deeply honored to be able to be I don't know if it's MC is the right thing or host or whatever, in helping Maggie Fox and our team organize a bunch of people that are going to be coming up to talk about this issue. And hashtag 2030 is now is a great overarching theme for this event. And this section on climate, I think, is appropriate to have a single focus because, of course, you know I believe this, but I would like to persuade all of you that this is by far the greatest challenge that fits in the category of biggest challenges we face, but also in the category of 2030 is now, because the decisions that we make today are going to shape 2030. A lot of people look at the climate crisis and they think solely about air temperature. But you know, 90% of the heat that's trapped is trapped in the oceans. And then it circulates deeply and then comes back out over time. So it's a large, complex system, the Earth climate system, with a lot of inertia. And it's like that old corny cliche metaphor about turning the wheel of an ocean liner, and it takes a long time before the direction changes. The Earth's climate system is kind of like that. And we have been turning toward heat for quite a long time now. Last year was the hottest year in the recorded history of North America. Of course, that's only part of the Earth's content, but 12 of the 12 hottest years ever measured globally have been in the last 15 years. Last month, August 2013, was the 342nd month in a row where temperatures were hotter than the 20th century average. This past decade was by far the hottest decade ever measured. Now, they've only been measuring with instruments for 140 years or so, but that's a long period of time. And of course, they have proxy measures going back much farther than that. But we're seeing the manifestations all over the world. There has been a 100-fold increase in the extremely hot days occurring around the Earth. They used to cover 0.1% of the Earth's surface, now 10% of the Earth's surface. And we're seeing the extreme weather events that are associated with the climate crisis. And look at what Boulder, Colorado's just been going through. I live in Nashville. 3 years ago, we had a similar event there. Thousands of my neighbors lost their homes and businesses, and none of them had flood insurance because there'd never been a flood in those areas. It was described as a once-in-a-thousand-year event. And it's an even rarer event that happened last week and 2 weeks ago in Boulder. And, of course, the fires all across the West and the melting ice. And New York City, hello, Superstorm Sandy, on October 29th of last year, parts of the ocean directly east of where we are right now were 9 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. That's the energy that makes the winds in the storms stronger. And when the land-based ice melts, of course, sea level goes up, and so the storm surges go further inland. And, of course, the evaporation of moisture off the oceans puts a lot more water vapor in the sky. And it comes back down in the normal water cycle. Think of it this way. If you've got a bathtub and you fill with water and you open the drain, the water rushing down the drain doesn't come just from the part of the tub directly above the drain. It comes from the entire tub, obviously. Well, the same thing is true of these big precipitation events where the storm conditions trigger a drain or a downpour. The water that falls doesn't come, and snow as well, it doesn't come just from the part of the sky directly above where the precipitation hits. It comes sometimes from 2,000 kilometers away, funneled inland toward that drain, if you will. And so we're seeing these extreme downpours, record floods, much more precipitation in a short period of time. And this is happening all over the world. And so Mother Nature is speaking up loudly and clearly. Later this week, the scientific community will speak again with the 5th assessment of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And predictably, the denialists will be out trying to seize on this, that, or the other and make some exaggerated false claim. Will the world be played for a fool again? I don't think so. I think that we are right at a political tipping point because people are hearing from their parents and grandparents and elders that it's never been like this before. These are new weather and climate conditions. Last year was the record melting of the Arctic ice cap. That affects weather patterns as well. And the number of people in harm's way is a number that is certainly increasing. Now, we are still putting 90 million tons of global warming pollution into the atmosphere every 24 hours. And according to Jim Hansen and his colleagues in what has been described as a conservative estimate, the accumulated amount of man-made global warming pollution that's up there in the atmosphere trapping heat now traps as much heat each day as would be released by 400,000 Hiroshima atomic bombs going off every day. Now, it's a big planet, but that's a lot of energy, and that's what's evaporating the water off the oceans into the air in greater volumes. That's what's making the air warmer so it holds more water vapor, so the water cycle is disrupted. That's what's raising not just the air temperature again, but the ocean temperature. And it's also putting carbon dioxide into the oceans itself, acidifying the oceans. So at the Climate Reality Project, our job is to tell this story and to tell the increasingly hopeful story about the solutions. We're seeing renewable energy from solar and wind, for example, deployed at rates that are way, way, way beyond what had been predicted. And the cost is coming down to levels below the grid average price of electricity in more and more sectors of the world. And in the next few years, the number of people who live in those sectors of the world will grow from billions into the vast majority of the people in the world. In telling this story, every year, Climate Reality hosts an event called 24 Hours of Reality. and we go all the way around the world from each time zone. And this year, on October 22nd, I'm pleased to announce here at Mashable, 24 Hours of Reality will tell the story of how we are all paying the cost of this carbon pollution. I'd like to ask them to run this little, real short video about
Congress has agreed on more than $50 billion in relief for the victims of Superstorm Sandy.
Vast chunks of Mozambique were flooded. 2 million people affected.
At least 10 people have died in Shanghai.
$7 billion in damage.
It's killed hundreds of thousands of cattle.
250,000 cars.
Dozens of lives have been lost in recent days.
So now the question is, who's going to pay for this?
Join us October 22nd and 23rd for 24 Hours of Reality as we identify the costs of carbon pollution and the solution that can change the course of our future.
We are already paying the cost of carbon, so it is high time that we put a price on carbon. The course of civilization between now and 2030 and beyond is going to be shaped by us, and largely within the two large systems, the political system and the economic system, in which our choices are made manifest. And within the market system, of course, democratic capitalism is now ideologically hegemonic in the world, mainly because it is at the base of almost every successful economy. But within the market system, we have to put a price on carbon. And within the political system, we have to put a price on denial. It is simply not acceptable for major companies to mimic the unethical strategy of the tobacco companies in presenting blatantly false information in order to protect a business model. There are we've got to put a price on that denial. And you know the tobacco companies hired actors after the Surgeon General's report came out in the mid-60s and dressed them up as doctors and put them in front of cameras and paid them to lie into the cameras. Say, I'm a doctor and there's nothing wrong with smoking, you don't have to worry about it. Well, some, not all, but some of the oil and coal companies are doing exactly the same thing today. It is not acceptable, and there needs to be a political price for denial. But again, in the market system, since we're already paying the cost of all this carbon pollution, we need to let the polluters pay that price. And when we put a price on carbon, then automatically the zillions of economic decisions that are made every day will begin to factor that price on carbon pollution into those decisions. And at the margins, the low carbon and carbon-free choices will become more attractive, as they should be. It's absolutely absurd to treat the sky as if it were an open sewer. I mean, come on. Back in the 19th century, there was a cholera epidemic in London, and a famous doctor there, they didn't know what caused cholera, famous doctor there made a map of London and put a dot everywhere there was a case of cholera, and then overlaid that map on the city's sewer system and identified a single pump malfunctioning on Broad Street, connected the dots, and gave a picture that enhanced understanding of that epidemic and that disease. And a few short years after that, Pasteur identified the proximate microbiological cause, and cholera is no longer an epidemic. I mean, it's still a threat, but it's not the killer that it once was. Now we have to connect the dots. Dirty energy causes dirty weather. We have to put a price on the dirt in the dirty energy that causes the dirty weather. And so 24 Hours of Reality will be focused this year on the price that we have been paying and the price that we should inject into the market system. Again, I mentioned Superstorm Sandy, $65 billion. This is more than that, really, but that's what the Congress recognized. Now we've got these political controversies. How are we going to pay to clean up these climate-related disasters? The biggest insurance companies, Swiss Re, Munich Re says there's no doubt what's causing it. Swiss Re says it keeps us up at night. And why should that cost be fobbed off on the general public and made invisible in the market system? We're paying the cost of carbon. We need to put a price on carbon so we can recognize it in the market system. Their cost to health. These infectious diseases, some of them are moving rapidly from the tropics and subtropics into the temperate zones where people don't have the same immunities. Asthma is going up. There are many, many examples. So we're going to bring people together from all over the world, from economists and scientists and doctors, nurses, business leaders, parents, artists. We're going to create a global conversation. And I want to ask the Mashable community, unique as you are, to please take part in this. Help us. We need your help to move this conversation forward. We can win this conversation. And winning a conversation can make all the difference. I remember as a boy growing up in the summers in the South when the conversation on civil rights was won. I remember when one of my friends made some racist comment and another one of my friends says, "Hey, cut it out, man. We don't talk like that anymore." Millions of conversations, not only in the South but elsewhere, made that turn, and the laws started to change. A few months ago, the news media reported a story about two gay men standing in line for a pizza, and some homophobe walked by and made some hateful comment, and according to the reporter, literally every other person in that line turned and said, "Shut up, we don't accept that." We are winning that conversation. Now, there are millions of conversations about climate, and some of them come to a halt when somebody flies into a furor. And you see this division in families and institutions and communities. And it's almost like a family with an alcoholic father who flies into a rage if the word alcohol is mentioned. So the rest of the family learns to keep the peace by never mentioning the elephant in the room. Mention it. Speak up. And when these conversations about climate take place, don't let denial go unchallenged. So, I have a tendency to get a little worked up here, and I know I've run overtime, but this is important. Okay. I will close, and I'm going to come back and make some remarks later after some of these other folks have talked. But I'll close this by saying the following. I told you about what I saw and experienced with the Civil Rights Revolution in the South as a young boy. When I was 13, I remember being inspired by President John F. Kennedy when he announced that mission to put a person on the moon and bring him back safely in 10 years. And I remember so many people, older people mostly, said at the time, "That's going to be a huge waste of money. It's probably impossible. We shouldn't even be thinking about something like that." But 8 years and 2 months later, Neil Armstrong set foot on the surface of the moon, and Buzz Aldrin did too, and came back safely. The moment Armstrong's boot hit the surface of the moon, at NASA's Mission Control in Houston, there was a great cheer that went up. And the average age of the systems engineers in that room that day was 26 years old, which means their average age when they heard that challenge was 18. And today's 18-year-olds are waiting and hoping and are eager for this generation with its hands on the controls and levers and fingers on the buttons of change in this world to take action and take on this crisis. Put a price on carbon. Put a price on denial. Let's solve the climate crisis, and we can do it. Thank you very much. I'll be back.